Hello guys, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be showing you the long-awaited, much anticipated tour of my entire Capacities app. I did talk about Capacities like 7 months ago in a video. It was one of the apps that I talked about in the 3 apps that I think is going to blow up in 2023, and I promised to make a video on Capacities on its own when the mobile app comes out. And spoiler alert, their mobile app is out now, so I'm going to make a video on how this app works and just talk about it. But before we begin, I did want to explain a little bit what Capacities and what a second brain is, because that is a pretty important concept in learning Capacities. So a second brain is essentially where you can store anything you want to store. It could be a book, a movie, a quote, an article, I don't know, whatever, a product, whatever you want to save. A second brain is really useful because the human brain is really bad at storing stuff. It's really good at creating stuff, mixing and matching ideas, creating new stuff, but it's really bad at storing things. You really want to have a reliable place where you can put all of your ideas, all of the things you want to save. So that's where the second brain comes in. And personally, I also really like having a timeline of all the things that I found valuable or helpful throughout my days. So I like using a second brain for that specific purpose as well. So it's kind of like a diary / journal / vault of everything that I want to save. So popular second brain apps include Obsidian, Logseq. People have been using Notion as well, but I do not recommend Notion for a second brain, and I will talk about why later. You can basically use those apps to store anything. Like my second brain contains like music I love, movies, books, songs, TV shows, news, events, any definitions that I learned, etc. Yeah, that is basically what a second brain is. And if you think you would want to get into building a second brain, Capacities is definitely a really good starting point. So let's get into the structure of Capacities. So right when you open Capacities, this is what you will see. You can make multiple spaces for different things, but I just have one space because I want to be able to link everything together. So when you go into your space, you will see that on the left side here, there are a ton of these objects. And objects is the most important concept to get in Capacities, because Capacities is an object-based app and everything revolves around these different objects. So objects are basically like databases in Notion. If you've used Notion before, so any item that you create in the same object type will share all the same properties, and you can define the property for each item in the same object. They also have these default object types, which are tweets, images, pages, tags, and web links. And everything else I did create myself. So for example, in books, my properties will be genre, themes, author, rating, related content, and the cover photo. And every single property of the book type I customized. So the properties for different other stuff like TV show, songs, games will all be different. In the book object type, at the very top of the dashboard here, you'll also see a thing called collections. And collections is basically like folders where you can put different items of the object types into. But the different thing about collections is you can put one item into multiple collections. So one book can be simultaneously nonfiction and read, right? Or to read. So it's really much more flexible than just having a folder like in Obsidian or like in Notion, where there's just one place for one specific item to go. The second really important thing to get is tag. And this is actually my favorite feature in Capacities because it is so flexible. So as you can see here, I made all of these tags of 3 pages. And these are all the tags that I can use to tag every single item or just type in text as well. And tags is also one of the reasons why I think Capacities is superior to Notion in terms of being a personal knowledge management or second brain app. Tags can be applied anywhere. You can apply it to an object, you can apply it to a block of text, you can type it into a text, you can tag an image, and all of those tags are applicable throughout your entire space. So for example, in my 2023 tag. I used it to tag different events or different items that are significant in my 2023. So you can see that there are books in here, there are tweets in here, and there are some YouTube channels in here, and also events as well. This is a really good demonstration as to why tags are way more flexible than folders or lists. It is because you can apply it to your entire space and see everything in one place and link everything together. So as I said before, a lot of people also use Notion as their second brain app. But as I said, Notion is structured differently. Technically, you could create an entire database to make tags to apply to the entire Notion workspace, but it is very tedious to set up and it is not Notion's intended use. So I don't prefer using it that way, and I still use Notion, but I use it as a collaborative tool instead of a second brain app because it's just way more intuitive in Capacities, and Capacities is free. You can use tags to tag objects. So for example, at the very top here, I tagged this object with 2023. But also I do have this tag property labeled genre, so I can use tags to label this object with its genre and also its themes as well. So every single of these colored blocks here are tags that I've created. They fit in this specific property, so I know what the context is. As I'm typing, I can also use tags as a word. So I talked about reading about linguistics, and linguistics here is actually a tag. You can also use it that way instead of trying to fit it into any of the boxes. I also use the tag grief, and it's not specifically a theme or this entire book, so it's just in the text. So Capacities does show that for you as well in text grief, and I can click that and look back to when I talked about grief. And in the grief tag, I can also look at the specific block that was in Babel, the book that I was just at. And the next concept is relatively easy to understand. Capacities also function on blocks like Notion or Obsidian, where you can use blocks to format your text. So there are basic text blocks like these, and there are quote blocks like these. You can change any of the blocks to any of these formattings. You can also add an emoji. You can also edit the style. And the styling of Capacities is actually one of my favorites because look how good it looks. Like, you can change the color of the quote block. You can change the color of the text. It's just so good. Personally, my favorites are icons, so you can actually come here and add an icon right over here. So if you want to signify something with a symbol, you can use that. My second favorite is quotes, so this is how it looks. I like to play with the colors a lot to symbolize different things. Another one of my favorites is actually groups. I talked about Capacities doing a little redesign, and I wanted to tag this entire thing with my tag apps, which I use to document my use of apps. Since I placed every single block that was about Capacities into this thing called group, which I made blue, if I tag apps and in the backlink, I will see this entire group, which makes much more sense because then when I revisit this block, I will have context to what I'm doing. And the last really important concept to get in Capacities is daily notes. So basically, daily notes is where you will be brain dumping and putting all of your ideas throughout the day into your page. So as you can see here, I was reading about Howl's Moving Castle, and I also put it in a group. So when I go back to Howl's Moving Castle and look at the backlinks, I will see the entire block of my review. And on the right here, you will see the calendar. The dates with the green dot is the dates where I did write in my daily journal. And as you type in your daily journal here, you can also tag different items or use different tags to sort them right away to the backlinks of those items. But you can also just move these things back to their pages where they belong if you want to do that. But I don't really like doing that because I just really want to get down information as quickly as possible. So theoretically, I could cut this entire block and paste it into Howl's Moving Castle to the thoughts section, but I don't really like doing that because I like to do a organized thought part at the very end when I finish the book. So what I do is I don't paste it there. I just simply leave it in my daily journal. So in the backlink section, I could actually see a little timeline of every time I mentioned this specific item in my daily journal. And that would be a nice timeline. In our daily notes, we also have another section called timeline, where you can look at different time references you made or items you created. So today I created the tag for despair. I created our habits log, and I also created this video that I want to watch later. I also created this app called Moleskine Actions. And at the very top here, you will see all of the different objects that do have the date property. So when you click onto any of them, you will create a new object in that object type with today's date on it. You can also make new items by typing anything and saying hash after it, and type any names of the type that you want to make it. So for example, if there's an app called test, I could make it an app by simply typing hash app and choosing the app type, and it would be made an app. Of course, you can go into it, you can change the brand, add information, put it into any collections, etc. But I would delete it because it's not a real app. So on the very top here, I created this daily log type page here for me to log my daily habits, and I log weather, my meals, and other stuff as well, which I will get into later. You can also view the daily notes in a 3-day, weekly, or monthly view. And now I'll show you some examples as to how I use Capacities personally. So I know that Capacities can be really, really difficult and confusing to use and start at first, because making different types of objects can be really, really confusing. But you don't have to worry about committing to the hierarchy of different objects. You don't have to worry about committing to the hierarchy or complexity of each object yet, because switching between types is actually really, really easy. I usually like to make new items that doesn't have a type yet, doesn't have an object type yet, in the pages type. I just put it there until I accumulate enough to make a new type for it, and then I can switch it. So for example, there's an item called test here, and it is made a page, right? But now I actually want to add it to a type. The way I could do it is just click here, and then I can convert it into anything. So for example, if I wanted to convert it to a definition, I could do that. And then you could change all of its properties, and it will tell you what properties are missing or what information you need to change. So that is really, really easy, a really easy way for you to change your types without feeling like you are gonna die, because it is really, really complex on Notion. And I even watched a video on it a while back, and it was really confusing. And I used to have an object type just called media, and that is where I put every single book, movie, TV show, anime, manga. That's where I put everything. And that did not really work well because they have different properties. For example, books will have the author property, and TV shows would have actor, actress property, and the director property. So it doesn't really match well together. But I was so used to this mindset of making my databases as broad as possible because of Notion, because I want to share all of the tags, right? But in Capacities, because you don't have to worry about that anymore, you can just use tags all throughout the same space. So you can make your object types as specific as possible. So now I do have an object type for movies, TV shows, animes, books, all separately. So all of the properties will be as specific as they need to be. So that is also the rationale behind creating these different object types, as I know that a lot of you guys might be confused about or might ask me about, and that is something to consider when you're creating each type, which is how specific do you want the properties to be. So one of the ways I use Capacities is for my daily logging. So as you can see here, these are all of my daily logs. I also embedded it to show in my daily notes page. So as you can see here, I have weather, I have my skincare for my morning, and I also have my skincare at night here. And the reason why I have so many other properties here just hidden is because I do have it set to hidden when empty. So it is hidden when it is empty. So when I have dinner, for example, I will just click on dinner, and it will allow me to fill in that field over there. And I also have my workout tracker, which links to my web links database, where I saved the link to my workout, and TV shows, which obviously links to my TV show object, and movies and anime and manga, which links to their corresponding object types. And this is where I log everything. And when I go into my daily log object, I can just look at every single stat that I had. And on the bottom here, I have 2 text fields. There are blocks field, but I use it to type text. So I have my grateful log and I have my work log where I just talk about everything that I was grateful for and what I worked on for that day. So for every single object, similarly to this habits thing, you can also embed it to this page. So for example, if I wanted to embed a book, I could simply tag it and choose embed. And here I can see everything and edit even in my daily page right here, which is really convenient. So for my second most used purpose of Capacities, I use it to track every single piece of media that I consume. So recently that has been my books. So as explained before, collections help me organize my contents, and the inbox here are for any of the books that I haven't tagged or moved into any of the collections yet. And also something about collections that is kind of tricky is that they are only contained in this specific type. So if you do want that kind of restrictive hierarchy, collections is for you. So kind of like the traditional folder where they only exist in books, but also not like traditional folders because the same item can exist in 2 folders at the same time. Japanese author collections, for example, will not be in the TV shows type. That's what I'm saying. So let's go into one of my books to look at how I track my reading. So as you can see here, I have a blocks property called synopsis. So I just copy and paste the Goodreads synopsis of this book right here, and it even links to a page to my browser, and I do not care about that. And you can just fold it, and this is where I can put all of my highlights. I can export all of my highlights from my Kindle and I can paste it here, but I didn't do that yet. And then I have another blocks property called thoughts where I just put my entire thoughts for this book. And I put different headings in here, and that is something that I really love about Capacities. On the right here, you can actually open the menu for this page, and in the menu there are backlinks where I mentioned this book, and the table of contents, which is what I love about it. So as you can see here, these are all the headings that I have mentioned for this book review, and I can click onto any of it to just navigate to that heading right away. And this makes so much sense because in Notion, it can only be placed to a specific location at the page. And that makes no sense because if I want to navigate to some place, I don't want to have to navigate again to the table of contents, right? You want the table of contents to be always accessible for you to just navigate anywhere. So the table of contents is always on the right of the page. So wherever you are in the page, editing, whatever, adding information, whatever, you can always use it to tag to go back to where you want to go as you are typing. And that makes so much sense. And there are also other stuff in here. There are mentions of the tags in this object. Images, people, web links, collections, events, basically a glance of what is inside this page. And at the bottom here, there are some stats that are fun to read, but I don't really need them. You can also hide this entire thing. And there's also a graph view of what is related to this book. So here I can see that it is related to one of my friends because she actually recommended this book. So on the left here, you can see the cover of this book, the genre, the themes, all of the tags, the author, the rating, blah, blah, blah. And this is actually the encyclopedia layout for Capacities. For Capacities believers, you can get to customize the layout. So there are the standard view, the index card view, the profile view for people, and the encyclopedia view, which is my favorite view because it shows a lot. So you can basically choose any of the views for you to show the information. So index cards could be for definitions or like really straight to the point, straightforward information. For example, I have COVID-19 here. So the last thing I wanted to show you is my skincare database. So I didn't make this skincare database just to track what skincare I used every single day to like look at how they affect my skin condition every day. And I also have these types called brand and products, and they work kind of the same way. So I talk about the products and I look at if I like them. And in these products, I also have a property called brand, which I link back to the brand. My skincare also links back to the brand. So I could look at how many of my products are related to each other and how I like this brand, etc. And this is how I track my impression of that specific brand in my brain. So as you can see here, Sony, I do have these 3 things. This is camera, lens. There are actually more, but I didn't tag them. I don't know why. And I can go back to Fujifilm to look at everything that I tagged. Fujifilm. Let's get into the iOS app right now. So the iOS app is only for believers at this point, and it's only in test flight, so it's still in beta, it's still developing, they're still working on it. So it's not the most stable or smooth app ever, but I still like to use it, even though there are things you cannot do on the mobile app. I think compared to other apps that I've tried before, it's already a really capable app where you can do the basic stuff, all the basic stuff right in the app. So here is how the app looks. You can look at how this is the sidebar over here, and at the bottom here you'll also see the daily note tab. I really don't like how you can't navigate back and forth to dates by just swiping, because that is what I'm used to, but you can just add stuff to your daily note right here. You can also add different objects or use the quick actions to add any of the stuff you want to add to your second brain. And lastly, you can also search anything. But the reason why I love having a mobile app is because I used to use their WhatsApp or Telegram integration to add information to my second brain. So any quotes, any tweets, any articles that I want to save to it, I would have to send to the WhatsApp that links to my Capacities to be able to add it to my second brain, because they didn't have an iOS app. But now that they have an iOS app, I could just share everything. Like, for example, I could go onto Twitter, I could see this tweet, and I could share via and go to Capacities, and it would prompt me to create a link for that tweet, and it will be added to the tweet to my second brain, and I could see it as a tweet. I could add the tags, I could save it to a collection, I could type anything, I could see it in my daily timeline, and that is why a mobile app is so useful. So in the past, when they didn't have a mobile app, I used to only use Capacities for like summaries for books, reviews for movies, at the end of the day when I could sit down with a computer. But now that they have an iOS app, I could actually jot down more of my day, which is why I decided to start making a daily log object type for my habits. So more details for my day can be jotted down, and it actually replaced my daily journal app from before and became my daily journal now. But as I said before, it's still a little buggy and little confusing to navigate around, and it's still lacking some of the features that I would really expect from an iOS app, like swiping, navigation. But it's still way more than what I could expect from a beta app. So I'm still really grateful for the team for working on this app really hard and coming out with such an amazing app in a really short amount of time. So to round up this video, I'm going to compare Capacities to Notion, which I'm sure a lot of you will be comparing these two apps anyway. So let me give you my 2 cents on how these two apps actually compare. So as a disclaimer, I just wanted to say that these apps are fundamentally different because they're made to do different things. Notion might have started as just a note-taking app that maybe could function as a second brain, but as it evolved, it is now clearly an app made to be a collaborative tool or a project management tool. So we should really look at it as that instead of as a second brain note-taking app, because it's really not. It lacks a lot of those functionalities that we would want from a note-taking second brain graph visual second brain app, but it does work really well as a collaborative tool. I don't really think it's fair to compare them exactly, but I could tell you what they're good at respectively. So what Capacities is better at than Notion is as a personal note-taking app, as a personal knowledge management app. Because firstly, they have a graph view that links everything together in a really nice visual way to let you see what the relationship between all of the objects are. And that does not work on Notion. They do have backlinks, but not a graph. And it does have tags. Tags works all across your space, and that again allows you to make connections between different databases objects across your entire second brain, so you can make connections better, and by making connections you can think of ideas better. And the third thing is their daily pages. So I've always hated this about Notion, but there is no way for you to connect everything to a date and for you to just simply go to a date and look at everything that is related to that date. And that really frustrates me as someone who really likes to work with a timeline. But with daily notes and Capacities, you literally can do that because everything can be linked back to the same date property, the same daily page, and you can just look at your timeline with that. On the other hand, what Notion is better at is integration with other apps like with Figma or Slack. So if you are used to using those apps in your workflow, you will be really happy with using those apps as well. You can even embed your Spotify playlist or your Google Calendar right into your page. And that is not something that Capacities is made for. The second thing is collaboration with other people. I think Capacities is actually planning for some degree of collaboration or at least sharing, but I don't think it was made to be a collaborative project management tool, which Notion excels at. I still use Notion as like a project management tool with my sister because we work on the same studio, we work on the same shop, we work on the same content. So it is really nice to collaborate on Notion. And the third thing that Notion excels at is project management with statuses, relations, status bar, progress bar, templates, etc. So there are many complex features that Notion has come out with all in the past year. It was really confusing. Subtasks, AI, status bar, status ring, whatever. I loved all of those features for project management because it is so nice. I think those tools are essential to project management because you really need those stats. You really need those levels of complexity to work with different projects, to work with a large group of people. And Capacities just isn't built for that. It's just like a one-man, one-person show. Like it's just like a little notebook, as I said before. So the conclusion is you really need to know what you're looking for in order to decide on whether to use Capacities or Notion as a second brain. Seeing as both of these tools are free, I would really recommend all of you to go try out both of these tools for yourself to see which one suits your needs better. For me, I still use Notion for my work as well as my book club because Notion is better for collaboration. So I invited my friends to join the book club. Whenever I type my book notes on Capacities, I could also copy and paste them over to Notion. So my friends could read my book notes and we can discuss them together with a common feature on Notion. So all in all, I love Capacities, if you can't tell. If you guys decide to try out Capacities, be sure to leave a comment below what you think about it and how you use it. If you decide to try using it, I hope my guide, my video, helped you clarify the concepts in Capacities a little bit, and I hope it inspired you to start your own PKM journey. And I'll see you in the next video.